Hello, friends. Welcome to Literary Concepts. Today's topic is the Pre-Raphaelite Age, which was happened between 1849 to 1854. Now, let us try to understand about the Pre-Raphaelite Age. The Pre-Raphaelite Age, which began in 1849 and ended in 1854. So it is a mid 19th century literary and artistic movement which was happened in England, which was occurred in England. So it is a literary and artistic movement. So it was led by the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, so PRB. So it was a group which was founded in 1848 by young artists and poets like Dante Gabriel Rossetti, John Everett Milius, and William Holman Hunt. So these three young artists and poets who founded, who started Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood in 1843. So this group led the Pre-Raphaelite age or the Pre-Raphaelite movement during mid 19th century in England. So let us try to understand about the term Raphaelite. Raphaelite means so something or someone associated with the artistic style or influence of Raphael. So Raphael, he was a renowned Italian painter and architect of the High Renaissance movement, which happened between 1483 to 1520. So Raphael was a Italian painter, and he was founder, the creator of the High Renaissance movement. So, who followed or who were influenced by this Raphael Italian painter? So, they were known as Raphaelite. So, Raphael was celebrated for his, so Raphael was very popular for his mastery of composition, expertise in composition, perspective, and idealized beauty in art. So, he was very famous for his composition and his perspective, that is a point of view, and idealizing, so that is regarding as a perfect beauty in art. So the term the pre-Raphaelite, pre means before, okay, before Raphaelite, reflects their admiration for art. So the term pre-Raphaelite is reflecting the admiration, the inspiration for art before Raphael, emphasizing a return to vivid detail, rich symbolism, and emotional intensity. So here that these pre-Raphaelites, they got inspiration from Raphael. Okay, they were influenced by the Raphael, and they emphasized on the return to the graphic presentation. Vivid means the graphic, realistic presentation, and rich symbolism. Symbolism means the use of symbols to convey ideas, to represent ideas, and that emotional intensity, the emotional depthness we find in the works of pre-Raphaelite writers. So this movement, so that is the pre-Raphaelite age, the pre-Raphaelite movement, so seek to return to the artistic principles, the artistic beliefs and rules, and the simplicity of medieval, so the simplicity of the Middle Ages and early Renaissance art, and rejecting this movement rejects the rigid, the stiff and the rigid conventions, the traditions and mechanization of art and literature imposed by industrialization and the Victorian establishment. So this movement, so they sought and they gave importance to the artistic beliefs, simplicity of the medieval time, and the early Renaissance in art. Whereas at the same time, they reject the rigid, restricted conventions, traditions, and the mechanization, very artificiality of art which was imposed by the industrialization and the Victorian establishment. So during the pre-Raphaelite movement, pre-Raphaelite age. Now let us try to understand the characteristics of the pre-Raphaelite age. The first one is medievalism and romanticism. The first characteristic is medievalism and romanticism. The pre-Raphaelite literature so often drew inspiration from medieval themes, legends, and chivalric ideals, combining these with the emotional intensity and natural focus of romanticism. So, the pre-Raphaelite writers they inspired from medieval themes, the Middle Age themes, the legends, the superheroes, uh, and then the chivalric ideals. Understand the noble and the courageous ideals, which combines both the emotional depth and the natural focus of romanticism in the literature of pre-Raphaelite age. The next characteristic is symbolism and visual imagery. So the pre-Raphaelite writers they were excelled in creating rich, vivid imagery and often drawing upon symbols to convey deeper spiritual and emotional meanings. So they were very much excelled in creating rich and graphical imagery, and they used symbols to convey their deeper spiritual and emotional feelings. Their poetry and prose had a painterly quality. So their poetry, the pre-Raphaelite writers' poetry and prose had that painterly quality, means that art we find in their literature, so which reflects their root, which reflects their beginning and roots in the visual arts. So that is creative arts. Visual arts means creative arts like painting and sculptures. Understand? The next characteristic is emphasis on nature. So just like romantic writers, the pre-Raphaelite writers also glorified, admired nature and focusing on its beauty, mystery, and ability to evoke deep emotions. So these, so they focused on beauty and the mystery of nature, and at the same time, the characteristic of ability to invoke the deep emotions. The next characteristic is focus on beauty and sensuality. Beauty and sensuality. The pre-Raphaelite works often celebrated physical beauty. So they highlighted the physical beauty and sensuality, that is having enjoyment in sensual pleasures, physical pleasures, and exploring the themes like love, desire, aesthetic appreciations with a frankness unusual for Victorian times. So, which was not common for Victorian time. The next characteristic is interest in myth and allegory. So, myth, it is a traditional story, folklore, okay, folk tale, mythological So mythological and allegorical. Allegorical means a symbolical representation. So these mythological and allegorical elements were very common, uh, used and explored to explore the spiritual and moral and philosophical themes during pre-Raphaelite time. The next characteristic is rebellion against Victorian materialism. So the pre-Raphaelites criticized the industrialization and commercialism of Victorian society. So they were against the Victorian materialism, so that they criticized industrialization and the commercialism of Victorian society, which they saw as a leading, so which they considered it is leading to loss of individuality. So they considered it, so the individuals, the people are losing their individuality and that spiritual nature, spiritual depth. The next characteristic is themes of love and melancholy. Melancholy means sadness. So we find that love was a central theme during the pre-Raphaelite time. So it was idealized and it was unfulfilled. Love was unfulfilled and idealized, and it was the central theme of the works of pre-Raphaelite time. So this was often accompanied by a tone of melancholy. That love was always in a sad tone, exploring the fleeting nature of beauty and life. So the fleeting, the short, okay, uh, fleeting means a brief nature of beauty and life. These are the characteristics of the pre-Raphaelite age. Now, let us try to understand about the major writers and their works during pre-Raphaelite age. The first writer is Dante Gabriel Rossetti, whose lifespan started in 1828 and ended in 1882. He was Dante Gabriel Rossetti was a founding member of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Rossetti was both a painter and a poet, known for his sensual and symbolic works. He was very popular for his sensual and symbolic works. His important works, the first one is The Blessed Damozel. The first work is The Blessed Damozel. So it was a mystical and romantic poem about a maiden, about an unmarried girl in heaven longing for her earthly lover. The next work is Jenny. So it was a poem exploring the life and inner thoughts of a fallen woman. Fallen fallen woman means an immoral, impure woman with empathy and complexity. So the Blessed Damozel and Jenny are the important works of Dante Gabriel Rossetti. The next writer is Christina Rossetti. So Christina Rossetti lifespan started in 1830 and ended in 1894. So the Christina Rossetti was a sister of Dante Gabriel Rossetti, and he was a major poet, okay, who was associated with pre-Raphaelite ethos. So pre-Raphaelite ethos means that beliefs, character, okay, pre-Raphaelite characteristic, and her works often combined religious devotion with the themes of love and mortality. Her Christina Rossetti's important works. The first one is Goblin Market. It was a narrative poem rich in symbolism. So, using more symbols to convey the ideas, addressing themes of temptation, sacrifice, and sisterly love. Goblin Market addresses the themes of temptation, sacrifice, and sisterly love. The next work is Remember. It was a poignant, poignant sonnet. So poignant means sadness, a painful sonnet about love, memory, and grief. Goblin Market and Remember are the two important works of Christina Rossetti. The next writer is William Morris, whose time period started in 1834 and ended in 1896. He was a polymath. Polymath means a person who is having wide knowledge in various wide knowledge in various aspects. So he was a writer, he was an artist, and he was a designer. William Morris was influenced by medieval ideals, medieval themes, and Pre-Raphaelite aesthetics. Pre-Raphaelite aesthetics. William Morris' important works are: the first one is The Earthly Paradise. It was a collection of narrative poems drawing from classical and medieval myths and legends. So, drawing inspiration from classical and medieval myths and legends. The next work of William Morris is News from Nowhere. It was a utopian novel. It was a utopian means a heavenly, idealistic novel presenting an alternative pastoral vision of society in contrast to industrialism. So, presenting an alternative, the pastoral, so the rural life of society in contrast to industrialism. The Earthly Paradise and News from Nowhere are the two important works of William Morris. The next writer is Algernon Charles Swinburne, whose time period started in 1837 and ended in 19, not 1909. So the Swinburne's poetry often embraced the themes of sensuality, paganism, rebellion, aligning with the pre-Raphaelite fascination with beauty and freedom. So, Swinburne's poetry often, okay, taken up the themes like sensuality, sensual pleasures, paganism. Paganism means a religion other than one of the main worldly religions. Okay, paganism means it was a religion other than one of the main world religions. So it is different from the main religions such as Christianity, Islam, Hinduism. So this paganism is a different religion from uh, the natural religions which we find in the world. And rebellion and aligning with, so in lineup, okay, combining with the pre-Raphaelite fascination, interest with beauty and freedom. Swinburne's important works are: the first one, Atlanta in Caledon. Atlanta in Caledon. So it was a lyrical drama inspired by Greek mythology. So combining classical themes with the modern sensibility. So Atlanta combines the classical themes with the modern sensibilities. The next work is Poems and Ballads. It was a collection marked by its bold exploration of sensual and taboo subjects. Poems and Ballads. So it was a collection which explores sensual and taboo subjects. These are the Atlanta in Caledon, poems and ballads are the important works of Algernon Charles Swinburne. The next writer is John Ruskin, whose lifespan started in 1819 and ended in 1900. He was a critic and thinker closely associated with the movement. Ruskin defended the Pre-Raphaelites and influenced their focus on nature and beauty. So he was a critic and thinker who is very much closely associated with the Pre-Raphaelite movement, and he defended the Pre-Raphaelites and he influenced uh, their focus on nature and beauty. His important works are, the first one is Modern Painters. It was a multi-volume work that championed the appreciation of natural beauty and criticized industrialism. Modern painters appreciated the natural beauty and criticized the industrialism. The next work is The Stones of Venice. So it was an architectural treatise work emphasizing the value of Gothic design and craftsmanship. The Stones of Venice. It was an architectural book work, so which emphasized the value of Gothic design and craftsmanship. Craftsmanship means that skill in a particular, the mastery in a particular craft. So these are the important writers of the Pre-Raphaelite age. I hope you understand the Pre-Raphaelite age. Thank you, one and all.